My name's Justin Spratt. My bio's in there. Does everyone know what TED stands for? Oh, and by the way, you're going to have to listen to my irritating accent the whole day because I am also the MC. Does everyone know what TED stands for? Yes? If you don't ask, it stands for Technology, Education, and Design. I'm going to be the tech talker. But it's a whole bunch of ideas. It's a whirlwind of 10 minutes of things that I think might be possible futures. And some of them are not conventional, and I challenge you to challenge me. Okay, there's no question time, but you can challenge me later. Right, so I peek around the corner. I used to work at a Wall Street firm called Morgan Stanley. And people who could see around corners were the rainmakers. These were really special guys, hence my title, so hopefully it's creating some rich imagery for you. People who can see around corners make most of the money. So we're going to have a little bit of a peek around the corner, hopefully. This thing here, don't worry too much about it. This just says that what I'm about to say is highly likely to be not right. The red line is the actual sequence of the economy's events, and the gray line is our predictions. And as you can see, we can't predict very well. This here, don't worry about this, I promise you my slides are going to get sexy. This here says that for every 10% increase in the penetration of broadband and telephony, we get almost 1% of GDP growth. So for the non-economists there, if we get 1% extra GDP growth, we will start sorting out a lot of our problems very rapidly. It's about a 30% increase in what we've got at the moment, and what we've got at the moment is kind of us wheels spinning, standing still. Hopefully some of the ideas today are going to spawn some more GDP growth, but that's the catch line. 10% increase in broadband penetration is a good thing for the economy. We know this. It could add a third, just that thing alone could add a third extra to GDP. Okay, so let's quickly take a whirlwind. This is interesting here, 24 hours of video uploaded every minute. So a lot of you know this, but what does this say about us? This says that we love to create stuff and share it with people. This is the whole social web, social media. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that. What this has done has dramatically changed the way internet is engaged in. About 3 years ago, we had 80% of the data coming down the line and 20% up. Today, it's about 50%, 50%, right? That means we as human beings love creating stuff. Am I allowed to swear? We love creating shit, and we want to upload it and share it with the world, okay, right? This has been so bad that it's actually broken mobile carrier networks around the world, okay? These are things called cows, cellular on wheels. AT&T literally had to bring these cows into San Francisco and New York just so their mobile phone network could work. What does this say about us as humans? We have got our iPhones and our Androids, and we're filming stuff and we're uploading it there on the spot because we think it's worth watching. Often it's not. We do not need a paper ticketing system ever. We haven't needed this for about 10 years. This is not news to you, but be aware of these QR codes. I didn't think much of them up until about 18 months ago. They're quick response codes. They're little squiggly lines like that, and if you take a photo with the right software on your phone, they turn into identified pieces of information for airline tickets, movie tickets, you name it. Augmented reality, we know about this. A very famous guy called Never Haddas, he runs the corporate finance for Hiso Media. Sorry, my enunciation's a bit strange. He says augmented reality is not augmented reality, it's actually reality. It's here, it exists. This guy for $200 managed to build a tool that essentially puts reality and information in front of him. Okay, so this camera would look at people, he'd be able to see their Facebook profile, he would be able to transpose the latest information on a paper, on your newspaper, and read it. So you didn't have to worry about news cycles and what have you. Interestingly, on the newspapers, we had a famous guy from Switzerland who's an amazing guy, and he talks about not having newspapers but story papers, because news now is a commodity. We're not going to pay for news anymore. The Reuters of the world and the news feeds are dead, right? But we will pay for opinion and editorial, right? This is an interesting thing. What does that say about our future? I know there's a news media talk by Sharon coming on later. He'll explain that in depth. This year, you don't have to worry about it's a boring slide, but essentially the reason the globe jumped off the economic precipice about 3 years ago was because we as Wall Street people believed in efficient markets. That is bullshit. Right now, I do apologize for the swearing. It is by design to create controversy and tweets and stuff. But the reality is we now believe in behavioral finance. There is no such thing as efficient markets. For 30 years, we had research papers coming out of the university saying the markets are efficient. I am here to tell you that the reason the markets fell is not subprime. Subprime is the result, okay? The reason was efficient market hypothesis. We now look at behavioral economics. There's a guy called Dan Pink. He writes about it. Dan Airley, Predictably Irrational. These are good books. Read them. It talks about the heuristics of humans. There's a concept called anchoring, whereby if you know, in a negotiation, put someone at a way high price, they'll come down to a price that's even higher than you initially wanted, right? Lots of stuff there. This is quite interesting. Stratfor is a global think tank, and they postulated in their 2010 report that there might be a Cold War between Angola and South Africa. I don't believe this, but it's quite interesting to think of the geopolitical landscape, right? Think about Angola is controlled by China, literally, and it's the biggest supplier of oil to China from the African continent. So now, who are we the proxy for? We're the proxy for the West, Europe. Something to think about. We haven't had a war. We've had the longest peacetime in history. And the Afghanistan and Iraqi wars are small in comparison. I'm talking about global strife. We've had the longest period of peace ever. So I would ask you to think about what might happen if these things occur, such as a Cold War. We know how to save 3/4 of our electricity at a fraction of the cost. We have this IP at the moment. There's a famous guy called Richard Mulholland who does talks. One of the things he talks about is legicide. The reason we don't know this tech, the reason this tech isn't proliferating is because of legacy. Legicide is the suicide and the homicide of our generation because of legacy, right? It's a theory that you can read up on one of his blogs. But this is interesting. We know how to do this. This think tank in Colorado has the IP to do this. Why don't we? Because we have a massive motor industry and a massive oil industry. Something to think about. This here is quite interesting, media farms. So this is actually frightening. So let me move to the next slide because we're mindful of time. This company here, Demand Media, has created 1 million pieces of content. They do this on a freelance basis. How do they do this? They go and search Google and they find the most popular things on Google that rank the highest and go and produce content for that ranking. It's post-fact production of media. Think about this. There's actually robots, web robots, that can actually produce this media via an algorithm. What does that say about our media? This is an interesting one here. So cheap food depends on cheap oil, plentiful water, and constant weather patterns. This is a fact. There is no debate about that. The key thing I want you to ask yourself is cheap food and food security, and I know Mandla's going to talk about it just now, was built on $30 a barrel. Walmart was built on $30 a barrel of oil. It's now 80, 90, hits over 110 sometimes. 3 times more than what the last 30 years have given us. What does that say about food security? Voicemail's broken, guys. We don't want analog conversations with people who are not our very good friends, our family, and our very good customers. I want that digital. I don't want to have a conversation with you. I don't have the time. Voicemail is broken. Voice to text is working very well. In fact, phone numbers are also broken. Phone numbers is also part of legacy. The only reason we had phone numbers was because it was a mathematically good solution for the technology at hand. We now have what we call handles. Justin Spratt on Twitter or on Facebook or on Skype. I have a handle. I have a universal handle eventually that will connect to Facebook, Skype, Twitter, every single thing. I want to be known by my handle. I don't want to be known by a telephone number because that might change. That's plumbing. That's in the background. That sucks. This here, there's no such thing as call centers anymore, guys. It's contact centers. Think about how this is going to change your business. A large part of the reason Twitter is successful is because of its customer service ability, the ability to respond to negative tweets about service. Okay, we need to be able to get to you by email, via Twitter, via Facebook, via all of these mediums. This here is location-based services, GPS. Knowing where I am and my GPS coordinates. This is like Facebook on steroids. I not only know your age and what you like, I know where you are. If you're prepared to give me this information, I'll give you massive discounts. Starbucks, if you're the mayor of a Starbucks, you get $1 off your Frappuccino. The mayor is someone who checks in the most at the Starbucks, right? The Joie de Vivre index. GDP is a great measure. I talked about it at the start, but is it necessarily the best one? Well, Sarkozy, despite his lack of popularity in France, is putting together really smart people to try and create the Joie de Vivre index. In other words, it's not just about economic growth, it's about a whole bunch of other factors. Will this take off? It's not taking off yet. There's 14 Nobel laureates on this working group. The Pirate Party, guys, this is absolutely amazing. 28 countries has got Pirate Party people in Parliament. What does this say? This says that there's an assault on our culture. Why? Well, they believe that the copyright laws are old and ancient. They are absolutely old and ancient. They suck. We need to discuss it and change it. Last slide. Here. China's growth as an economic superpower is increasingly correlated with Africa. So as China does well, so will Africa. The jobs of the future, curatorship, looking after stuff. Facebook accounts and stuff. And then search, last slide, sorry, search. Increasingly giving us what we want, not what we ask for. Very, very interesting. The semantic web. The semantic web is big, it's here to stay. Guys, thank you very much.